This is a shot filmed on this, a 35mm t1.05 full frame cinema lens that you can pick up for $350 or $180 if you want the photo version. It works on several different mounts including Sony, Nikon, Canon RF, etc. And it's really just one giant hack, and we're going to talk about that in this video. So a while back I did a video and you guys were talking about what lens did you use for that, and a bunch of you started guessing. I figured you'd never figure it out and said I would get to a video on it. Here I am, better late than never. So let's talk about this. Long story short, it's a cinema lens that shoots super shallow depth of field at t1.05, but the catch is it's actually an APS-C lens designed for crop sensors, but I've been using it on full frame cameras like this A7 IV. I also have a filter in front of it that does something really interesting, and that combination I think makes for a super interesting lens. So here's a shot from that video a while back, and you can see there's a lot going on in the background, a lot of interesting shallow depth of field, some really funky stuff, and that's what's so cool about this lens. It's crazy cheap, and it has such a unique look. So let's deal with the elephant in the room first. This is not designed for full frame cameras. I think that's why it's affordable, also why it's kind of funky, and that does come with some limitations. So first and foremost, I'm going to take this gray card, flip it over to the white side, and if I stick it into the corners, you can see it gets really dark. In fact, there's some vignetting going on there. So this is an A7 IV full frame sensor. That's what you're gonna have. And if I bring it across the frame, you can see pretty quickly it opens up. By the way, I'm looking off to my monitor off to one side. So it stays pretty consistent. It's just in those corners. So that's the first thing, vignette. The second thing is you really need to shoot completely wide open all the time with this lens, unless you're going to crop in. I'm gonna cut to myself slowly turning the iris so you can see what happens, and that vignetting is going to get worse and worse and worse the more you stop the lens down. So really you wanna be shooting at wide open to about 3.5. Beyond that, you're gonna start getting some pretty severe vignetting. Now let's quickly switch over to Super 35 as this lens was designed to see what that looks like. Okay, we are now at Super 35, a lot more cropped in, and there's still some elements in the shot that you can see the bokeh going on. And as you can see, it's pretty clean. Let's go ahead and check the corners. This is, again, wide open, I think. Yes, wide open, and we no longer have any vignetting because this is how it's designed to be used, but that's not nearly as fun. So let's go back to full frame and talk about one of the other weird artifacts. And we're back to beautiful full frame land. And what I want to talk about is sharpness. So I'm going to put this focus thingy next to my eye, and I'm going to move it across the frame. So we're roughly in the center, and as you move away from the center, it gets less sharp, obviously, especially this fast at t1.05, but things get really interesting if I go behind me. So see how that's out of focus? I'm going to keep this at the same distance and move it across the frame, and look what happens. When we get near the edge of the frame, look at that, it's actually kind of in focus right now. This might be easier to see further back here, so you can see I'm out of focus, this light is blobby and out of focus. As I roll to the side, I actually start to get sharper right here at the edge. Look at that thing. It's crazy. I'm not perfectly in focus, but I'm not even close to the focus plane, which is 4 feet. So I'm gonna move back to the center, and now I'm back out of focus. Let me go ahead and move forward again. Right about there is in focus. And if I move out here, you can see I'm out of focus there. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. If something is behind your subject, out of focus, as they get closer to the edge, they get back in focus. And you can see that from that other video that I filmed, and a bunch of you pointed that out. But those two things aside, the vignetting and the weird focus thing, this lens is incredible, and it works on full frame, and it's a cinema lens, so the dampening and the way it focuses and the clickless aperture, all of it just works really, really nicely on this guy. And of course, you can always hop into Super 35 or APS-C if you want a cleaner image. So for $350, pretty amazing. And again, $180 for just the metal photo version if you don't need focus gears and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't stop there. This whole time I've actually been using a filter on this lens, and that's, I think, that last little chef's kiss to get things just really unique when it comes to the quality of the image and the optics on this. So let me go ahead and take that filter off. Now we have no filter, and you can get a good idea for what this lens would look like out of the box compared to the filter that I've been using with it for this whole video so far. And I'll put a side by side so you can kind of get an idea of what they look like compared to each other. In short, this filter is the Tiffen Glimmer Glass 1. So there's several different strengths. This is the strength 1. I love this. This is probably one of my favorite filters, and so much thanks goes to GX Ace for introducing me to this thing. Amazing channel, check him out. Also an incredible filter, and I use it for basically all of my videos. I'm also going to add another filter that I really enjoy. This is the Tiffen Smoque with a QUE at the end, and I've done a video on these and I'll link to them up in the cards. And there's the Tiffen Smoque on the camera. We'll put a side by side of all three: no filter, the Glimmer Glass 1, and the Smoque filter, to give you an idea of what things look like. But obviously it looks like there's haze in here, there's been a fire or something. So it's really, really nice look. I'll give you guys kind of an interview style eye line here just to see what that looks like. Pretty nice. You can see how much light is being added, or the levels on the dark side of my face. The ratios are completely different now compared to no lens and then Glimmer Glass. And we are back to Glimmer Glass to talk about one more feature that I love about this lens, and that is the minimum focus distance, which is 14.57. I've set the lens to the minimum focus distance. I'm gonna go ahead and move in uncomfortably close to you guys. But what's interesting with that is the shallow depth of field. So again, we're at 1.05. So when you can get something really close to the camera and the lens and focus that close at around 14 inches, that's gonna allow you to have just insane bokeh balls in the background, as you see here, kind of this blobby mess up here, which is just super fun. I guess that's actually another thing I didn't mention before, is the interesting stuff that happens in the background depending on where it is in the frame. Remember, because focus can get really weird on this thing toward the edges. So you can see the cat's eye effect as I pan that around. I'll point to a bunch of blurry stuff in the background there, and you can see it's just look at that. Man, that's so good. So obviously that's, you know, wide open here and all the way at minimum focus. Let's back it off a little bit. Let's kind of find a happy medium, something like this. Again, this is very, very close. But geez Louise, that's just real pretty. So anyway, that's gonna wrap this video up. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think. I'll have links to everything mentioned in the description. And by the way, if you enjoy these videos, you can really help me out by buying gear from me. Shameless plug, you can purchase the VB212 calebpike small rig battery in the description, or you can check out other gear over at Camera Foundry, where we sell rigs like the one I'm using for this video, or Cineback, and we have several new models coming out soon. So thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Really enjoying being back on here, and I'm gonna make it a point to post once a week. So let's get back after it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.